What is up, South Harmon Nation? We're back with the Hurdle episode 101, which means we're taking you to class, not game plan, but you're here for that ass, the Hurdle, right here, right now, on a beautiful November 5th, Tuesday. There's nothing else in the world going on in football, in college football, in life, nothing that can overpower the Hurdle on this beautiful Tuesday night. Matty Kiwoom. I don't know if you got a clean cut or what, but I know you got a barbershop hat on, so I'm just going to bet on you having been there in the last 2 weeks. How we doing?
I'm doing good. The hair's looking rough right now. That's why I got the lid on. But for Haver Barbershop, this is the home turf right here. This is the home court. This is where I go to get faded up, get cleaned up. I got an appointment this week, so I'm very excited. But again, yeah, there's just nothing going on. Actually, you know what? You did lie. There's one thing going on sports-wise or just anything wise in the world today. Action. We got some action here. We got some action tonight. So there is something to look forward to. Other than that, there's just absolutely really nothing. Very desolate time of the week. Just no big impactful things. That's why we're bringing you the Hurdle. That's why we're very excited. Talk a little football, talk a little Hurdle ratings, do a little 3 up, 3 down.
We are not live. We are pre-recording because of a bunch of
a bunch of the nothing that we talked about happening.
Yeah, of things we need to get done. But we'll be live back next Tuesday. Matty will be on the game plan this weekend. Everything is all systems go. Do we appreciate all you guys that are in the chat? We do appreciate you. We do love you. We're not going to interact with you tonight because, like I said, we're pre-recording, but we will reply to all the comments on the video after the video is up. So appreciate that and love y'all for that. Matty, couple things. Baseline. I know you want to talk about tonight. 3 up, 3 down. I hope you spelled it right. I hope you spelled it down and not down. And then we also have the Hurdle rating. Couple big games this weekend. I talked to Fizz about this morning. 11 teams with 6 or more wins. 11 teams with 3 or fewer wins in the NFL. So we're getting this pull apart right now in the NFL. And 4 of those remaining 10 teams that don't have less than 3 wins or more than 6 wins is the entire NFC West.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have these 2 teams that weren't even in the Hurdle rating last week, the Jets and the Bengals, that are a game for the Bengals and 2 games for the Jets out of the playoffs. It's interesting. We'll just put it that way. We're going to cover it all with the Hurdle rating tonight. Matty, what do you want to start with tonight? You want to start with 3 up, 3 down?
Let's go a little 3 up, 3 down, and I'll get the party started with my first up. It's got to be Devon A-Chain. Devon A-Chain has to be the first up that we talk about here. We've now had 4 games this week, or this season, Cody, with Tua on the field with Devon A-Chain. In those games, I did not see this coming at the beginning of the year. 7 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 6 receptions, 8 receptions. Over 100 total yards in all 4 games, a touchdown in all 4 games, 23 fantasy points, running back 3, 29.5 fantasy points, running back 2, 26.7 fantasy points, running back 2, 32.1. He was another top 3 running back on the week. He's just been utilized in such a tremendous fashion. And now when you look at his WARP, you look at it relative to whether it be Superflex or 1Cube, it doesn't matter. You're looking at a top 20 to top 15 overall player in WARP, and that number will continue to go up as guys like Chris Godwin and some of the injured players start to trickle back down to earth. But Devon A-Chain is providing about a 1.5 wins above replacement. He's been as valuable as that draft selection was, and you're getting him in best parts, in the most parts of value, like end of the 3rd, middle of the 3rd, and he's just been an absolute beast with Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback. So for me, Devon A-Chain had to be an up that I had to bring up today, man. I mean, unbelievable, freaking believable.
Leading his team in receiving is one of the more wild stats.
Unbelievable, to be honest.
Like, I don't know. He's healthy, so I don't know what to do. I hate Miami, dude. I hate everything that's unfolding in Miami right now. The team's not good. Waddle can't, do tiddlywinks, nothing. Besides run backwards and fuck people out of props and stuff. I think Tyreek has his bounce back on Monday, but I mean, Devon Achane's been like constant piece, I guess, in this offense. What's the I think most. I mean, it's today's trade deadline day, and maybe between us recording this and this thing going live, Raheem Mostert gets traded. But Raheem Mostert's been one guy that I'm kind of watching, at his age and at what we've seen from Achane, and of course Jalen Wright. We haven't even got to see Jalen Wright yet. With where this team's going, I kind of want to see Raheem Mostert get moved. But as far as Achane goes in this backfield, with who he is and what we've seen so far this year, in like dynasty terms, is he, for me, let's see where I have him right now. I think I have him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, RB9. Is it time to like make an adjustment on that? He's 23 years old. It's that, there's really, I mean, Mostert's been banged up, but there's really not a Mostert stranglehold on any of this, or even a bottleneck on any of it.
I think when you talk about Achane, you're talking about the premier the premier buy target for contenders. This is the guy. This is the year that you go ahead and you throw your late first, your playoff first. You throw a package of younger players together to get this guy, because you're really only trying to project 1 year out with the player, especially like Devon Achane, who we might be talking about next week. Like, oh, he's hurt again. We saw it coming. It was bound to happen once again. But if I'm not contending, I'm trading Achane, no doubt about it. I mean, this is peak value. What you could jump into from Devon Achane right now. Are you that far off from getting a Breece Hall? You could get a Kenneth Walker, who I think has better longevity. You can get a guy like, I don't know. I flirt with Kyron Williams because he's been so damn good. But he is, again, year to year, that I don't know if I want to jump into a whole lot of shares of that. But the point is, he's as straight up and down as 6 o'clock. Contenders, you got to buy. Good rental, good, going for it type piece. Non-contenders, easiest sell.
What if you're 6-3, 5th place in your league, and your team is a bit fragile? My team's a bit fragile. And it's a bit aged. I wouldn't call it a real contender. It's a bit fragile. So here's the team. I'll tell you my starting lineup. My starting lineup it's a super flex league. It's Burrow, Cousins, Achane, Swift, Adams, Godwin died, Debo, and what did I just read? Did I misread? Okay, that was it. And then Kelsey. And like the rest of it falls off quick. Like it falls down to like Jalen Coker and fucking, Tyler Boyd at tight end. Yeah, I got Likely, but I mean, that's kind of a drop off past that. It's way down. Running back past Swift, you're literally talking about fucking Kendre and Roshan. And at quarterback, it's straight to Levis. Like it's extremely fragile past those starting guys.
I see. This is,
I don't believe in it.
This is the angel and the demon on your shoulders, because on one side, the process play is to bolster up the lineup and still try to compete, kind of retool type of deal.
Yeah.
But the cowboy in me says you got to keep pushing the chips in. I mean, you got the difference maker at tight end potentially. You got 2 good running backs. You got good quarterbacks. But this is something where I don't know if I'd be selling Achane in the traditional sense. But if you could tear down from Achane to a Tony Pollard, but also bring in a JSN, someone we'll talk about later in the show, or a Josh Downs plus, like if you could tear down and fatten that roster, I think that's probably you having your cake and eating it too. But I mean, not all league markets allow for that, to be honest. But I wouldn't sell in that spot in the traditional sense.
This might be just me I have a little more value, I think, in said Tillman. And I don't know about Tyrone Tracy. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about him, but I'm building up a trade right now with our guy Pat Fitzmaurice. If I send him Achane and he sends me Tyrone Tracy, Cedric Tillman, and a second, I kind of like that. I think a lot of other people would be like,
then put the fire sale. This is that's a fire sale trade. Like, you're not gonna, if you didn't think you were competitive with Achane, you're not gonna be competitive getting those players. So you might as well.
You don't think I'm gonna be competitive with Tracy and Tillman?
No, not like you would be having Achane.
I
would say
I'm
just
internally
round
scared about the floor on
you're ready to do it.
I'm just asking the question. I'm internally scared about the floor on Achane.
Oh, I get it. I completely understand that. I like the route you're going. I just think you're going too selly. That's too 2025 and beyond. I think that's losing too much points in 2024. I will say this, and big shout out to our guy Coop. He did his last grinding the edges. He talked about the value surrounding injured players. And basically what he came up with and what he talked about was they never recoup value, ever. I mean, it's so rare that a player recoups dynasty value. So I mean, start with Godwin. According to Coop, I'd start with Godwin. I think he's right on with that one. Start with Godwin. That even if you're a rebuild, it ain't worth holding on to a guy like Godwin, whose floor is now looking real bleak. So, but yeah, that's a good talking point, because I think a lot of teams are in that situation where they're knocking on the door of the playoffs, or they're in, but they're an injury away, a couple of string of bad luck away for being not only out of the playoff picture, but damn it, I really should have started getting these points off my roster 3 weeks ago, because now I want to be in the contention for, the Ashton Ginties or the Tet McMillans or the Luther Burdens.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Give me one of these downs here. I'm going to plug in Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. My vast thought here is more about the New Orleans Saints. Carr is obviously a driving factor in this whole thing. This team's fucked. You saw it this weekend. I think you saw it unfolding in front of us with Michael Thomas tweeting during the game. That shit was brutal. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, saw his tweets pop up and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then after like the second tweet, I go, oh, I got it. I'm picking up what you're putting down, MT. And, they were up in this game 6-0, 7-6. They're back up 13-7. They drop down 17-13. They get up 22-17. And then Chuba just does. Chuba's been just Chubing all year. Chuba's been Chubing.
Chuba's been Oklahoma State junior year. Chuba Hubbard.
Dude, he's been great. Surprisingly. And Carolina wins this game. Interesting enough, it's Carolina pump here. Is Bryce Young won his third career game. Each of his games has been tight. 15-13 against Houston, 9-7 against the Falcons, now 23-22 against the Saints. That's how bad this team is in a situation. I mean, this team is this close to being winless. Wild. Anyway, the Saints lose to that on the back of 38 opportunities for Alvin Kamara, 215 yards, no touchdowns for Alvin Kamara. 38 opportunities, Matty, no touchdowns. Like the old Saints, the old situation, Kamara finishes with fucking at least 2, maybe 3, and upwards of 4 or 5 tugs with that much opportunity, right? Like, how many times have we seen the multi-tug game from Kamara? 38 fucking opportunities had me off my seat. I was pissed. And Taysom Hill gets the rushing touchdown, and Moreau catches one. I'm just like, this is stupid. And then we see after the game, right? They lose, and Cam Jordan tweets out, he's like, "Man, we lost to the Panthers. Y'all deserve more. This motherfucker isn't a sack in like a year and a half, and he's out here tweeting shit." Like, I understand he's the leader of the team and stuff, but miss me, man. Kool-Aid's hurt. Marshawn Lattimore's hurt. Olave gets his like 8th concussion in the last 4 years. Carr is garbage. I mean, you might as well put Spencer Rattler back out there. Carr's not. I mean, how wild is it, Matty, that earlier this year, it was just, man, the Saints are going to fucking roll, man. Fucking Derek Carr's MVP conversation. And it's like, oh, they just puppy dogged the Panthers and puppy dogged the Cowboys. And then, yeah, man, it's been 2 months since they've seen a win. So Not good. They owe a lot of money. They fired Dennis Allen today. They just trade Marshawn Lattimore to the Washington Commanders. They made a good move here. They moved Lattimore. They got a shit ton of picks for whatever reason. 28 with a shitload of money on the mend. They get a third, fourth, and a sixth for trading away Marshawn and a fifth. They've needed to move him for a minute. They need to move a lot of guys on this roster. Between us recording this thing at 2:00 Eastern time and the trade deadline, which I think comes down at 4:59 Eastern time, we could potentially miss out in speech here. We could see a Kamara move. Wouldn't surprise me. Probably that's maybe the only one on like a weaponry standpoint that would not surprise me. Defense, I don't think Cam Jordan's going to go anywhere, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Cam Jordan go somewhere. Just because of where he's at in his career. But he also feels like a lifer, like a Aaron Donald lifer, like he's not going to go anywhere. So yeah. I would love to see Kamara go somewhere, but I just don't think that they'll do it, even though they should. But my down is just the Saints franchise is just done bad. And it might be bad for a couple years. It might be back to the bag on the head type shit from back in the old days. So down, number one, goes to the Saints.
Yeah, I agree. The ain'ts, that era is going to start again. The dead cap, all that. Oh, how are the Saints able to do all this? Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So
bring back Aaron Brooks, baby.
Eventually, the check has to come, and it feels like the next head coach won't be the next successful head coach. It feels like the next guy is going to be taken on the chin for a couple years as they retool and kind of brandish things and kind of get their books loosened back up and go that route. So it's tough. Real tough. And for fantasy purposes, it's Kamara. It's nobody else.
Dog, I just went back to 2005 to look at what the Saints looked like in 2005 with Aaron Brooks. And they got beat 52-3 by the Packers in like week 5. And like, it's wild to me. Like we just look at the beginning of the year and like, we're going to have this. They're not going to win another game rest of the way. They're not. Atlanta, Cleveland, Rams, Giants, Commanders, Packers, they might beat the fucking Raiders, I guess, and be 3-14. Maybe.
Yeah. But like their max is 4 wins. I mean, they could beat the Giants, maybe they get an interim coach bump type thing. Because it was bad. I mean, Kamara was pretty.
Olave's going to be out for at least a month.
At this point, holding off for the rest of the season. I mean, there's nothing to rush him back for. And he's part of the long-term plans. He's that talented. I think he's shown enough. And with, Shaheen hurt, it's time to retool. There's going to be the Saints are going to look a hell of a lot different in 2025 than they did in 2024. My next up is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've won 4 straight. 5 out of their last 6. They've really looked like the Eagles that we expected, kind of bullying the opponents, even though that Jacksonville Jaguars game finished close. It never really felt all that close. Their defense is starting to turn around. My guy, Cooper DeJean on #the team, playing really, really well for them. Quinyon Mitchell looks like the Quinyon Mitchell that we saw at the Senior Bowl that we've been hyping throughout the process. Quinyon Mitchell looks awesome. And Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter has been unbelievable this season for the Eagles, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run game. Jalen Carter has been a monster. When you look at Jalen Hurts is absolutely chef cooking right now. I mean, they're letting Jalen Hurts go out there and just dominate the games, and he's really just lived up to the draft capital that we were taking him with early on. And he's just been a QB1 in fantasy. I mean, it's really been as simple as that. Over these last 4 games, we're talking about 20 points every single week, top 10 every single week. These last 3 have been inside the top 5. He's really just getting it done through the air while rushing, 67 rushing yards last week. Tush push is working. And now what we've seen in our super flex formats, we've seen Jalen Hurts eclipse. He's inside the top 25 with WARP. He's become ultra valuable, that quarterback 3, quarterback 2 type player overall in fantasy. So the Eagles are good, but what's bad when the Eagles are good is Nick Sirianni. That guy becomes insufferable when this team is winning. What an absolute show Nick Sirianni is. But Jalen Hurts looks awesome, A.J. Brown, hopefully he can get back on the field sooner rather than later because that connection is one of the best in football. Slim Reaper looks great, and Saquon Barkley's out here doing glitch Madden runs. I mean, that spin move to reverse hurdle was unreal. The instincts, the athleticism, it was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that because if that hurdle didn't happen, that spin move alone was worth watching 85 times. It was so clean, and the way that big fella can just move is unreal. And the Eagles right now, the Eagles are up, but where will they be in the hurdle rankings? I think everyone here needs to stick around and find out.
Just to clarify, did you call Sirianni a chode?
He is a chode.
That was a perfectly placed chode reference right there for Sirianni. My down, I'm just going to keep this thing scooting because this is a very quick one here, is Michael Pittman and his dynasty value. And where I come to you from in this conversation is Indianapolis is in a spot here. Flacco did not look good. I understand the Vikings defense is the Vikings defense. We thought they'd keep it close. They kept it close. For the majority, Flacco threw a pick. Flacco wasn't great. They had the run game going early. They really should have lost this game 21-6 though. I mean, that fumble return was fucking dumb. Mm-hmm. The whole concept of that play with Grover Stewart running over the center, Bradbury, and if you go back and watch, Bradbury actually stepped on his guard's foot. So he didn't get run over. He just slipped, got balanced, pushed over, and then Grover clubs Sam Darnold in the face, which I would say 90% of other quarterbacks across the league get that penalty when you get a club in the face, right? It's a general thing. If they don't score there and have that touchdown on that play, that game is literally like they get shut out. The offense had nothing going. They had Jonathan Taylor moving for a drive, and then they just kind of went away from it. He had 6 carries in like the first drive, and then they just went away from it. Mm-hmm. Downs got some work late in this game. This offense was bad. A lot of people, you see people now saying, what, bring back Richardson, put Richardson in, blah, blah, blah. You see like a bunch of streams and shit during the game, a lot of fans, and the Colts are in disarray. I wouldn't say they're quite in the same spot the Saints are in, obviously, or even the Giants or the Cowboys, but they're definitely in a spot. I just hope they didn't crack Richardson's confidence. I think that plenty of opportunities here, but Pittman with a 4-target, 1 reception for 4-yard game. And when I'm looking at what he's done this year, 30 receptions, 366, 2 touchdowns, now back-to-back games with 1 reception. The game before that against the Dolphins, he had 3 for 63. This guy is literally at his apex, 27 years old, just turned 27 this last month. It's not good. He's had 1 game with more than 5 receptions. That game against Pitt, we had 100 yards. It ain't good. And Downs looks like the target, like hog here. He looks like he has a much better connection with both quarterbacks. As far as Michael Pittman goes in Dynasty, I think this is a big down right now.
He's fallen outside of the top 100 overall warp. He is now officially in the aisle, the oh my God, you're killing my fantasy team aisle. He is as valuable as players like, the Jordan Addisons, the Jake Fergusons, the Sam Laportas, the Zach Mosses, the Jerry Judys, all these guys that really haven't done much for fantasy teams over the course of the entire season. And he's now fallen below players like Alexander Madison, Xavier Legette, Alan Lazard. These are guys who barely even started getting played in fantasy lineups. And you look at their AWARP, and he's worse than that. It's dire times for Michael Pittman. I do agree with that. Another receiver, though, that I have to say his value is up has to be Jackson Smith-Njigba after last week's game. He comes out and absolutely demolishes the Rams. 13 targets, catches just over half of them, only 7 receptions, but he explodes for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, finishes as wide receiver 1 on the week. He's been kind of bubbling at the surface. We've seen these decent games. He hasn't had a breakout game. He's only has one game over 15 fantasy points that came all the way back in week 2 against my hopeless Patriots. But we've seen this guy have, top 10 yak ability in the league. He hasn't been too explosive, but he has shown elusiveness with the ball in his hands. JSN now, he's at a point now where it's hard to put the cat back in the bag. He's top 5 in the targets on the season. He's not getting a lot of deep targets, but that'll come. He has 7 red zone targets, top 20 in the NFL amongst qualified wide receivers. I think at this point, this is the game in which they're going to go to a bye. They're going to recalibrate. If DK Metcalf comes back healthy, this is an offense that Ryan Grubbs is going to design to go through JSN. We've been hoping for this. The first-round draft capital suggested this, and we've seen flashes. We've now seen the breakout, and we're hoping that it stays long-term. When we look at how he's been over the course of the season, he's just outside of the top 40 in wins over replacement, so he hasn't been he hasn't forced his way to get that helium just quite yet, but it's definitely going to start in a big way after that explosion against the Rams. So now we have to wait a week, get a week off. We have to wait to see what this looks like with DK Metcalf. But remember, back in that week 2 game, DK was on the field. He had 16 targets, caught 12 of them, was the reason why they won that game. Again, the reason why they won on Sunday. He's not only performing, he's performing when the Seahawks needed it most. And now I have to ask you, though, Cody, is this the game that we'll always look back and make this is where JSN arrived? Or is he going to go back to playing second or even third fiddle in this offense?
He can't. He can't.
Can't now, right? He can't.
No, I feel vindicated because I never moved him in Dynasty. I just kept him top 10, and a lot of fucking hate came through that in the Gen Pop, and they were like, these people can't have JSN top fucking 10, top fucking 12, top 15. He's got to fall, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like the process was due. We've talked about the archetype of these receivers and him being in the archetype, the 5'11", 6 foot, 195, 200-pound guy, and the skill set that he came out with. Like, I just feel vindicated because I had him at like wide receiver 8 at one point. I moved him to 10, and I said I will never move him out to the top 10, and I never did. And I feel so good about it because the kid is still young and he's so clearly able. I think he's still 22. What's his exact?
He's only 28. He's just halfway through his year 22.
That's so stupid,
season, but he's not even 20. He's halfway to 23. I mean,
it's just so stupid. Like in comparison to everybody that's even above him, like Neighbors is younger than him. Sure, Marv is 22. Sure.
Yeah, but Marv isn't that much younger. He's probably only a few months younger.
Other than that, he's younger than everybody in front of him. So, like, he had 200. So you talk about the deep throws, and like the deep throws were coming, and I don't know how to value last week because we hadn't seen it, and that game was in like its own situation where like he got, I don't know, it felt like he had like 5 deep throws last week, 6 deep throws, and he was like back to back to back to back to back from Geno Smith all to him. You look down there and they kind of look like Tyler Lockett. They kind of look the same when they do the fucking moon ball and you're like watching on a zoom out and it was him. And I was like, wow, damn, that's Lockett. Nope. JSN catches it, whatever. 227 air yards this last week, 80 more than the next best, which was Christian Watson. Berserk. So, I love it.
All right, give us your last down. 3 up, 3 down.
My last down, Jerry Jones is officially senile. He's officially senile, man. You can pass on Derrick Henry. You can pay contracts to guys like Zeke. You can pay contracts. Sure, it makes sense to pay guys like Dak, Lamb, Parsons. Passing on Henry and bringing back a Zeke and then saying, we're good, we ain't going to draft one neither. And then bringing in Dalvin Cook is what it is. It's dumb. Should have made a move at the deadline for a running back. Still could in the next 3 hours that we're not casting. It could be a trade. Doubt it because I don't trust him. You fire people inside your building that are on the analytic and the personnel side, because they're the problem, right? They're the problem, not you. Not you. Not the guy that's been there for 50 years and has what? A title? 2 titles?
He has the 3, but this is going back to the 90s. This is
3. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He hasn't had one since the year I was born.
Yeah.
So
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And you're starting to blame everybody else. And, McCarthy's head's about to drop. Zimmer's head's going to drop. He's already spoken words about Dak in the past. Feels like Lamb and Parsons are maybe the two. Maybe you could put Trey Lance in there too. Lamb, Parsons, and Trey Lance are the 3 safest players on this roster, and now potentially Jonathan Mingo, the 4 safest players in the Dallas Cowboys. Now Mingo, they give up a fucking 4th round pick, round pick, which is going to be a top 125 pick right now. Yep. The Cowboys are going to be bottom 12, bottom 13 in the draft. That's going to equate to around like that 110, 120 area, which is idiotic.
It's awful. It's incompetence. I don't understand what the thought process was to attack wide receiver. Even if CD Lamb's going to be hurt for going the IR, which there's been 0 reports that he's going to miss even more than a week.
Matty,
what does Jonathan Mingo show you that you should give a 4th rounder?
The problem on your fucking team isn't receiver.
No kidding. I mean, Tolbert is breaking out in a real way.
It's offensive line. It's fucking defense. And we're fucking trading a 4th round pick for a fucking receiver. You got
a bad receiver.
Jalen Brooks is better than Mingo.
Yes.
Jalen Colbert's better than Mingo.
Yes.
Lamb is obviously better than Mingo.
Yes.
Not Simi Fiogo, sorry.
Flournoy. Can you guarantee that Jonathan Mingo's better than Ryan Flournoy? No.
No, not right now.
No.
Does he know the offense better? No. Is he going to learn it better, faster? No. Is Jonathan Mingo realistically going to give you anything rest of season with Cooper Rush at quarterback? No. Cooper Rush isn't an elevator. He knows his weaponry. He's going to target Ferguson. He's going to target Dowdle out of the backfield, which you saw, and he's going to target Lamb if he's in the game. And outside of that, you might get lucky to catch a couple balls. There's 0 chance in hell Mingo does anything without Dak in the lineup. This is the stupidest shit I've seen in a minute. And shout out to the Panthers for finally getting a win.
Shout out to Dave Young's finally getting that 2 wins in a couple days. That's
damn it, man. 2 wins in a week. You know some shit?
Hey, not that bad. But I mean, the Cowboys, and it doesn't even start. It wasn't even this year. It started last year by not letting Mike McCarthy go when Bill fucking Belichick was out there. The answer was in your face, and you let it go. And now all these teams that let Belichick go for a year is now going to have to be in a bidding war for his services, because there won't be just one like the Atlanta Falcons. There'll be 3 or 4 franchises that are going to be begging Bill Belichick to come rebuild their pathetic program. So I agree. He thinks he's done.
Matty, we chopped a couple teams this week in the hurdle rating. We're gonna get into it. We got a couple minutes left. We got some other circumstances. We got other stuff. We got to. I keep saying circumstances. We got some other obligations we got to get to.
Our civic duty. We got to go out and deploy our patriotic duty. We have to go out there and contribute to the non-event that's happening today.
The non-event. That's what we have to do. We have to go cook dinner for our wives. That's what we have to do, because we're femma women. We're women. We're
allies,
not,
brother.
We're allies. We're not men. Yeah. Anyway, doesn't fucking matter. I don't know what the fuck Maddie's talking about. Or I don't know what's coming out of my own mouth. The hurdle rating. Sick ass graphics. We've been talking about them for 2.5 years. Maddie finally comes through with some sick ass graphics because Cody can't. Shot at. All right. Last week, we talked about the teams at the bottom. This week, we're not going to talk about those teams at the bottom. The teams that did not make the rating this week in the top, what the fuck is it? 16, the top 16 overall was the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Sea Chickens, and the Chicago Bears. They did not make the top 16. You can see the grades 15.5, 15, 14.5. Cody, Matty, what the fuck is that? It's because we both give them a rating, and then
it's a rating. It's not a ranking. It's a rating.
In the aggregate, it's a rating, and there's multiple things that go into it, and that's what it is. So Chargers come in at 16. We talked about the Chargers. We didn't know exactly what they were. We're still confused. We wanted to know. We wanted to see some more. We talked about the splitting of the league right now. 11 teams with more than 6 wins, 11 teams with less than 3 wins. The Chargers are one of the teams in between there. They got a nice dominant win against the Browns this weekend. They come in at 16. The Cardinals jump in here at 15. They absolutely shit stomp the Chicago Bears. They're now first place in the NFC West, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take a Monday night overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. They come in at 14. Matty, this is a strong tier for being, 16, 15, and 14. A strong tier.
Oh, for sure. I think what we're noticing here with the hurdle rating is that there's so much crap at the bottom of the league that we're probably not going to see much variance from these 16 teams till the end of the year. I don't see a whole lot jumping around, and these 3 teams are good. They've played good games. It's just the Chargers, I think they are what we think they are. They're just a well-run team now that won't drop the ball, but they probably won't have a lot of exciting wins. The Buccaneers are plagued by injuries, and I don't think that'll change. And for me, it's just really coming down to the Cardinals and getting a marquee win. Now, you could say it's the Niners, and maybe it is. But after that, they got the shit kicked out of them by the Packers. They barely beat the Chargers, who are in this tier. And then they went on to beat the Dolphins and the Bears, 2 teams that we will not see in the hurdle ranking again. So I'm still wary, but I like the momentum they're building, and I like what Jonathan Gannon has done with this team.
Speaking of momentum, coming in at 13 is the Los Angeles Rams. Coming out of their bye, they've won 3 games in a row, and I talked about it with Fizz this morning. The entire league needs to be scared right now of the Los Angeles Rams and them getting on a heater, which I do fully believe they can and will do with this disgustingly young defense. They're 4-4, right in the mix in that division, a half game behind the Cardinals, who we have them ranked ahead of. They beat the Raiders, the Vikings, and the Seahawks by 5, 10, and 6. They had a tougher start to the year. They had the Lions, the Niners, the Packers, a couple tough games against the Cardinals early on with a bunch of injured receivers. They're now healthy. We'll see. Falcons come in at 12. Wow. 11, the San Francisco 49ers get back Christian McCaffrey this week. At 10, we have the Houston Texans. And at 9, into the top 10, coming off of a bye, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there was one team in here, Matty, that you maybe feel the most confident on to make a run to the conference championship, not the Super Bowl, but like make a run to a conference championship, probably lose that game, but make a run nonetheless. Like think of like those low-key Titan teams that you kind of forget about, that they had a good record. They finished the season strong. Like you look at the Steelers right now, they're 6-2. Like they can finish the season with a awkward record and potentially go on a run there, but we know they're not that great. Which one of these teams potentially leads you that way? And I ask you that question because this whole tier we have basically ranked the same.
So I think there are 3 actual contenders in that category in this tier alone.
One, you get one. Only one team can make it to a conference title.
I know, but I feel like there are 3 possibilities. But you know what? We will just, for the sake of the exercise, I'll say the one team. I do think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very well coached. They now have a quarterback with Super Bowl experience. And at the end of the day, TJ Watt can ruin games. This is the best pass rushing team in the NFL that is tried and true when it comes to making a run in the playoffs. If your best edge rusher can go on a tear, you can steal games. And then, of course, you're just factoring the AFC versus the NFC. The AFC is wide open. You have the Chiefs, you have the Ravens, and then there's a number of teams that you can make. We'll talk about some of them in this next tier, but the Steelers are knocking on that tier 2 also. And I think at this point, it's really just shaking the perception, if they're good or if they're not good, because their record is good, their coach is great, and their quarterback now is, we think Russ Wilson is just the Broncos' Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson was an MVP candidate earlier in chapter 1 of his career with the Seattle Seahawks. Can he get a little bit of that out? Can he get more out of this team than Justin Fields could? I do think so. And I think that being well coached in this league this year is truly the haves and the have-nots when it comes to head coaching. This might be the worst slew of head coaches in the history of football. And when you take in the aggregate, of course, there's some great ones, but there are so many bad coaches, and a lot of them in the AFC. And I think Mike Tomlin alone is going to bring a couple extra wins over his counterparts. So I think that they can absolutely take the 6-2 record and run with it.
I like that. And Tomlin's, I'd say, is the best coach in the tier. It's a very strong tier of coaches. Shanahan himself, D'Amico, Sean McVay. I think I lean with you in Pitt. I also like the Rams, though, quite a bit. They do have the Stafford factor with the healthy weapons. So I do like that. Not a really big fan of those middle three. Let's jump into the vaunted contenders tier. The vaunted contenders tier here with number 8, Philadelphia Eagles. Big win at home. They almost shit down their pants with the Sirianni Chode show on Sunday. Washington Commanders tied with the Eagles, and the Green Bay Packers tied with both. They're all 7s across the board. So that means they're technically all tied for 6th in our rating. Green Bay, Washington. Washington gets the win this weekend against the Giants, not in pretty fashion. And the Packers lose to the Lions. Coming in number 5, the Buffalo Bills, just quietly still there, quietly still getting the job done. They don't cover this weekend against the Dolphins, but they get the job done with the field goal late in the game. They stand pat. The Vikings at 4. The Vikings at 4. They move up a spot from last week. They were tied with Green Bay. They beat Green Bay a couple weeks ago, so they get that spot now all to themselves. Consensus 4, and consensus 3 again is the Baltimore Ravens. We've talked about this tier before.
We've talked about this tier extensively.
I'm going to show this, and then we'll bounce back. Lions, Chiefs still broke even. Matty has Kansas City 1. I got Detroit 1. I mean, we still feel this is the Super Bowl tier. Take us out on this, Matty. Just talk about the Super Bowl contender tier and anything you got.
I think what we'll see over the next few weeks is just a lot of smattering of teams. I think the tier 2 and tier 3 could be just one mega tier if we wanted to. If this was the NCAA, we were just consolidating conferences. We could just make it easy on ourselves, because I think we could see the Rams come up to tier 2 and the Packers go to tier 3 and the Bills go to tier 3 and the 49ers go to tier 2. But I think from the Ravens all the way down to the Rams there, we see a lot of good teams. This is the definite San Andreas fault line in terms of the good teams and the bad teams. But we've talked about this tier extensively in all different ways. Good teams, a lot of exciting components, but there's a lot of matchups on the next few weeks that are going to be big time for a lot of those teams.
Big show tonight. 45 minutes deep for the people. Nothing else on in their lives. Nothing else going on in their lives. At Matty Kiwoom on X, at Cody Carpentier on X. Follow everything over there. We both got shows all week. You can tap in, tune in, ask us questions on X, ask us questions on YouTube. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Matty?
Peace.